Excited to have with us a good friend of mine, someone that hangs out on Sirius XM. He's an Irish, Danish, German dude known as John Fugelsang. Good morning, John. Welcome to Chew's Views.
Oh, Mr. Chew, Happy New Year to you and your family and all your impossibly attractive listeners. Thank you so much.
Right on, man. How you feeling? How you been?
I'm doing great. Happy Trump's a convicted felon with no punishment day to all who celebrate out there. Doing all right. Doing all right.
Well, it's early, and at least it's not 7 a.m. there. It's 8 a.m. for you. I'm making the assumption that you're in New York right now, but thanks for being with us. We haven't talked since before the election. How are you, John, taking care of you, taking care of family, taking care of those that are important to you? What are you doing? How are you talking with your youngster to keep him in a good way right now?
Well, it's been interesting for me because this has been going on nonstop now. I was raising a toddler while my country was electing one, and it's awfully strange, isn't it, folks? If you have a boy out there, if you've tried raising a boy in the last 9 years, what do you do? How do you tell a kid? How do you tell a boy? Don't lie. Respect women. Don't be racist. Do your homework. Don't launder money to the Russians through New York real estate. Everything we teach our children, this guy violates. And yet you've got to try to find a way to say, hey, when you grow up, don't be like the president. And so that's where we're at right now. We're in a country where nobody can afford eggs, but we're going to buy Greenland. Wait.
I mean, I'm like you in so many ways. I'm a few years older than you, but we grew up similarly in terms of how we were raised. We understood that you respect the people around you that you say you care for, and the ones that you don't even know. You offer them first and foremost respect first, kindness first, goodness first, and don't be like that dude over there or that lady over there. Be this way, and it doesn't always. It isn't a perfect solution.
God. He's talking about basic respect, folks. The woke mob has gotten to Richard Chew. He's talking about basic respect.
That's all.
You cuck.
That's it. Nothing more. Nothing more than that. And yet here's where we are with this lunatic. And John, this is me. You know me well enough in this space. I'm gonna tell folks to their face. And the people who are supporting and behind this Yahoo and that have donated to his inauguration and all that, they can go kick rocks. They literally can go kick rocks because you've got a bunch of money. Why would you yield to the dude? And I said this earlier in the week and last week. I get it that they want to make us think that they're trying to protect their corporations, but they're just acting on their own self-interest and their own greed. It's that simple.
That's all of it.
That's all it is. Nothing more.
Yeah, I told him to kick rocks, and under the rock I found Joe and Mika groveling. So I felt so bad. It's the right, all of them. Look at all of them, the Zuckerbergs, and they're all just bending the knee and kissing the ring and licking the boot. And you know what? The boot tastes like Scott Jennings' soul. Yep. That's where we're at right now. It's the U.S. of PTSD, man. And I'd like to think that the Democrats are done with their finger pointing. I love you, Democrats. I'm rooting for you. I've always been one of those independents that you guys, I always vote for Dems. But are they done with the circular firing squad? Because I'm so over this period, this toxic taint period between Election Day and Inauguration Day, folks. It's going to happen. This is America. You want a metaphor for where America's at and where America's always been? I'll give it to you right here. We are going to inaugurate a racist on Martin Luther King Day. That's America. And you get to choose which side of that irony you want to be on. Yep. So, all of this groveling, this season of groveling, a lot of it is just, it's a cult of selfishness. That's all it's ever been. What does the Republican Party stand for? What does conservatism mean at this point? It doesn't mean family values. Doesn't mean fiscal responsibility. It sure as hell doesn't mean anything Jesus talks about in that book they wave around like a prop. No, it's about blind obedience to an obese lecher who wears too much makeup for his age, and owning the libs.
And I thought they didn't like drag, but I thought they didn't like drag queens, John. I mean, what's up with that? They don't like drag queens, but they just elected one. I mean, in many ways.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Oh,
goodness. My God. I know, I'm from Greenwich Village. I know some twisted old queens who'd be ashamed to be seen with this guy. My God, it's like when your makeup artist hates you more than Pete Hegseth's mother hates him. That's Donald Trump's burden right now. He has to go out looking like that. And, you know, but I guess we liberals don't understand that for so many real Americans, voting for Trump is the closest they'll ever get to being able to vote for Boss Hogg from Dukes of Hazzard. And that's a sacred thing for so many of us.
What a great reference to a 70s show that was as sexist and near about racist as you can imagine from the stereotypes that they perpetrated.
No, the Confederate flag on the car, that's not a symbol for slavery. It's just their car, the General Lee, who fought for slavery. What's your problem?
Yeah, come on, Hollywood. Get your act together. John, I got to ask you this. It's a comparative analysis in question. So, I mean, people talking. All right, let me back up and phrase this the right way. We've got an environmental climate issue going on in our country right now, and it's been going on for a long time. And folks have been, taking the okey doke and pretending that it doesn't exist or flat out denying it. And obviously the fires in Southern California, the weather in some of the southern states, the weather in the Northeast, and the list goes on. And then here in the Midwest, we aren't really getting anything, and we should be getting, 3 inches of snow every 3 days.
Right.
What is wrong with people who want to, and I put this in a little bit of a spiritual God conversation because of your experience and knowledge in that space. But what is? I'm giving you as much of a lead for layup as possible. What is wrong with people that they have to keep denying that this is happening and this planet that God, bestowed upon us, if you will? Folks are just burning it down, freezing it down, digging it down. What is wrong with folks, John?
I mean, the best part about being a climate science denier is that you're not going to be around when you're proven wrong and your grandchildren are cursing your name and taking your name off of ugly hotel residential buildings. Look, the Bible, there's two ways of viewing it, right? The Bible gives humankind dominion over the earth. Now, some people think that means humans are called to be responsible stewards of this earth and care for it and respect creation and leave creation better than we found it for the next generation that comes by. And you don't need to believe in the Bible as literal fact to believe in this sort of thing. Right-wing people or selfish-minded folks would view that as, no, the dominion means we get to do whatever the hell we want with the creation, and we can do whatever we damn well please with it and to it. And so that's what we're witnessing right now. I mean, these people have been coached by right-wing media, and this is how right-wing media grooms people, right? Rich people pay Fox people to make middle-class people blame poor people, but they also do it with science and the denial of science, which is nothing new. This is what was done to Galileo when the popes made Galileo admit the truth that the sun revolves around the earth. So it's not anything new going on now. And it's only a short hop, skip, and a jump from there to here where bird flu? Now bird flu? My God, Richard, every time these Christians elect Caligula, God sends a new plague. I mean, you'd think they'd notice by now.
They'd notice by now.
You know who does believe in climate change? Insurance companies, and the U.S. military, and the World Scientific Consensus, and Donald Trump. Donald Trump definitely believes in climate science. He has a golf course in Scotland where they had to apply to build a seawall. And the reason they gave on the permit request was because of rising ocean levels due to climate change. So when it protects his bottom line, he'll admit it in a court of law. Donald Trump believes in climate science, and that's why he knows Greenland's going to melt and have all of those minerals and all of the gold and silver underneath the permafrost, which apparently America has owned all this time without realizing it. Trump also realizes that someday with climate change, all the crops are going to grow better in Canada. So that's why he's doing all this nonsense, and that's the only creed they know. It's selfishness. I want what I want when I want it. You know, these narcissists have elected their grand venereal wizard, and you've got Trump and Musk, and their entire creed is to be a craven narcissist who thinks that selfishness is a virtue. I find guys like that work really well together. It's going to go really smoothly for the two of them in the same room.
It's like, how can we throw another log? I hate to shouldn't use that analogy. How can I throw more of me on the conversation so that more of me becomes more of me, which becomes more of me? And that's kind of where they are right now, John. And we know that. And so I'm a solutions guy, or what do we do next kind of guy. And that's got to be part of the conversation from the Dems. It has got to be, you know, it's part of my promo is all players means all players. And we have to force our Democratic elected officials and our Democratic business leaders to stop this garbage of going along and say, look, man, or lady, if you're not going to do the work, then get the hell out of the way and let somebody else in the game. You know, if you're not going to play your spot, your position, then just go so we can put somebody in that's gonna knock some tables over and make some things happen.
In the immortal words of Public Enemy, 1 out of 1 billion residents being dissidents who ain't kissing it.
That's right.
Absolutely. I don't need to see more Democrats fold like a sweater at the Gap. And by the way, that's not going to inspire people very much. I mean, maybe John Fetterman can ride to a wave of re-election enthusiasm by playing kissy face with Kash Patel and giving Kash Patel a freaking pedicure during their meeting. But that's not going to inspire anyone. And again, this is why they keep losing. And by the way, let me just say about Vice President Harris. She was in this race for 100 days, okay? Comb over Caligula has been running for 9 years. Vice President Harris was in this race for 100 days versus 9 years. And after 100 days, she got the third highest total of votes of any candidate to ever run for president in American history.
Yep.
So there's no mandate here.
Nope.
I mean, Donald Trump couldn't crack 50% again. This is 3 elections in a row where the majority of Americans who showed up to vote voted against Donald Trump. That sounds a lot more like a mandate to me.
It's interesting. I found that in this conversation around the mandate. So yesterday there was a guy on CNN who was I'm drawing a blank on his name. Sheehy. I should know this. He ran against Tester in Montana. He won. He's a carpetbagger. He threw a ton of money into the election, just like Bernie Moreno did in Ohio. A ton of money into the election to win the election. And he's saying we're going to stop the gridlock. We're going to make these things, go away, and we're going to fix these things in Washington. And I said earlier in the show, okay, dude, when you get to Washington and the seniors of your party tell you, no, we're not going to work on that, I want to see what he's going to do then, and what's going to be his excuse then when the senior folks in the Republican Party say, we're not interested in your desire to fix things. We like stuff the way that it is right now. So go sit in the corner, junior senator. Watch. Don't you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, well, to some degree. I mean, and you're even seeing that with some of the MAGAs waking up this week saying, hey, we didn't vote for sending the military to Greenland. We didn't vote to rename the Gulf of Mexico. But, at the end of the day, when people find out they've been betrayed by this guy, he's just going to blame brown people. He's going to blame undocumented migrants like the ones he's been hiring since the 80s. He's going to blame trans kids who want to play sports. It's really, really easy to manipulate the thought of a right-wing base. There's really no group that's easier to emotionally manipulate than right-wing white males. I mean, flag, troops, baby, Bible, then we're done. So, Donald Trump is someone who's always used his privilege to avoid consequences for his actions. First, it was his wealth, then it was his celebrity, and then it was political power. Karma plays a long game. And here's the thing. For all the Democrats who are all just at war with each other, pointing fingers, I get it. Everyone wants to blame Joe Biden or blame Kamala Harris or blame Hillary Clinton for not picking Bernie as a running mate in 2016. We can do it all day. I almost wish they'd swear this guy in now, Richard, because when they swear this guy in now, everyone's going to stop fighting each other, realize we're all back in the same boat again, get on the same page, and it's going to be a long, painful 4 years. A lot of people are going to suffer, but please, liberals, try not to say "I told you so" every day, because we're entering into the "we told you" show, and it's going to be 4 long years of being proven right relentlessly. Try not to be smug as you watch Donald Trump lose over and over and over again. It's not going to be better for him than it was on Election Day.
It's not it's not a winning way. It's not a winning strategy in going forward. I have a question for you, because I have a couple of friends here in Chicago that we have this conversation where they say, "Hey, I'm an independent, but I vote Democratic." Do you catch any hell for that with people?
For what?
For saying I'm an independent, but I vote Democratic. Do you get?
No. Yeah. No, I mean, look. First off, if you're voting third party in a swing state, you're voting for Trump. All right, that's really simple. I'm really sorry, independents, but if you voted third party in any of those 7 states, you got Donald Trump elected. So that's how it is. Being an independent in a safe blue or red state is a breeze. Vote for who your conscience tells you. I feel for the people in swing states who have to, but that's the way it is right now, because we have this insane system where dead slave owners didn't want their human property counted as full people, and that's why you can lose and still win. So this is how it's going to be. But I just got to keep saying, don't let the Nazis see you cry.
Yeah.
Don't let fascists see you sweat. Don't give them the satisfaction. Okay, and at this point, despair is privilege. You don't get to be despondent anymore.
Nope.
Donald Trump is going to be inaugurated on MLK Day, and he's not going to suddenly be intelligent. He hasn't become a good person. He's not going to read the Jesus parts and start caring about the less fortunate. He's not going to be smart. He's not going to be good at his job. He's not going to be less racist. It's going to be exactly what it was the last time. So just, try to stay sane. Look out for those around you. And stop and smell the train wreck.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but listen, what John just said, I've been saying, and we're all understanding this. We don't have the luxury of kind of leaning back and saying, "I'll just see what happens." I know there's people that are going to do that, and they're from all different parts of the conversation of progressive, liberal, democratic politics. But we don't have. If we want to see change, let's put it that way. If we want to see things change and get better, we don't have the luxury to sit back, because we already know this train is going to be way out of control, and it's a constant. It's going to be a train that's constantly going around the curve to see if it's going to stay on the rails or not. The chances are it's probably going to peel off the rails and crash into something. That's how, unfortunately, that's how far where we are. Let me ask you this question. Yesterday was part of the service for late President Jimmy Carter. And, it was a variety of different things. And obviously news clips and 30-second clips don't always give us the tenor of an event like this. But what's a little bit of your takeaway on President Carter and the celebration of his life and his after presidency?
Wow. I mean, Jimmy Carter was the first president I remember. And when I was very small, my religion stopped being Catholicism and became Star Wars, right? And I worshiped Star Wars, and that made a lot of sense to me, And then they had the first big Star Wars ripoff, which was Battlestar Galactica, and I was so excited as a kid to see this new TV show. And my dad, who was a high school assistant principal, wouldn't let me stay up late to watch. And I realized I had the worst parents in the world. Went to bed angry, and late at night, my mom was working. My dad shows up in my bedroom and wakes me up out of bed. I was still awake. I was staying awake out of spite and anger. And my dad says, "I need you to see something." And he drags me down the hallway, right? I'm going down the hall, and I'm like, "Oh, the TV's on. He's going to let me watch the end of Battlestar Galactica. I have a good dad after all." I go into his bedroom. I hop on the bed, and he doesn't have Battlestar Galactica on TV. It's Jimmy Carter on the late news signing the Camp David peace accord between Israel and Egypt. And I didn't know who Menachem Begin or Anwar Sadat was. I knew who Jimmy Carter was, but I didn't know what this service was about. Moshe Dayan had an eye patch. That was pretty cool, but I didn't know what I was watching. But I saw my father's face and how much it meant to him that an American president, a Christian, had helped bring peace to somewhere in the Middle East. And he wanted his kid there to watch a Christian, a Muslim, and a Jew embrace in peace and fellowship and hope for the future. By the way, an agreement that has lasted because, unlike the Paris Accord or the Iran nuclear deal, Donald Trump hasn't torn it up.
Yeah.
That peace deal has stood. And to my dad, what Jimmy Carter had done was everything America and Christianity should and could be. And just like to add over that, Jimmy Carter created more jobs per year as president than Reagan or George W. Bush. So just leave that out there as well.
And he gets criticized a lot, unfortunately.
He was terrible when he was alive.
Yeah. And so, listen, we all know, and that's a great memory. I'm a little bit older than you. I remember that from an older, teenager's perspective, and I remember it very, very well. And I just, I'm glad that I know I didn't get a chance to watch all the ceremony. I got lots of clips of it and all that. But I'm glad that we had Jimmy Carter as a president during our lifetime, and a person that stood up for people after his presidency in terms of all the work that he did.
Incredibly. And by the way, Jimmy Carter was someone who didn't really care what the Democratic Party establishment wanted. He listened to the New Testament. In Barack Obama's final days in office, a 92-year-old Jimmy Carter published an op-ed in the New York Times about how Obama needed to recognize Palestinian statehood for violence to be reduced in the future, to begin forging a peace and stopping this conflict. He was begging Barack Obama before Donald Trump to be sworn in to endorse Palestinian statehood, and it didn't happen, and things have gotten a lot worse. So Jimmy Carter was one of the smartest. Everyone should read the book Talking Peace, which is one of my favorites of his books, and he was such a powerful voice for wisdom and nonviolence and the actual teachings of Jesus that it's no wonder mainstream media has spent 40 years ignoring him
and bashing him in ways that really aren't relevant. And I'll use the word fair, but I don't think that's inappropriate. You've got a new book coming. I know I'm dropping a little bit of early knowledge on folks, but I'm having you back on when that book drops, man. So talk to us about that a little bit before we wrap up.
The book is coming out this summer. It is called Separation of Church and Hate, A Sane Person's Guide to Taking Back the Bible from Fundamentalists, Fascists, and Flock-Fleecing Frauds. And it's all about how to debate the Christian nationalist or right-wing Christian fundamentalist in your life on every single issue that divides us, because on pretty much every single issue that divides us, the right wing is against the actual teachings of Jesus. If you are pulling your hair out that you live with a person or work with a person who thinks it's possible to follow Jesus and Trump at the same time, this book is for you, because the only thing Donald Trump has in common with Jesus is they both spent a lot of time around prostitutes, and they both use ghostwriters. That's really it. So it's a book about how on immigration, everything that divides immigration, LGBTQ issues, poverty, healthcare, on everything, our right-wing friends have been groomed to actually legislate and vote against what Jesus talked about. He's kind of a prop they wave around in the air when they boast of their piety. This is a book about how you can be an atheist or a believer, or a believer in a different religion, but you still have to deal with these people. Even conservative Christians have to deal with these haters. So it's called Separation of Church and Hate from Simon & Schuster, coming out in August.
That's going to be great. We'll have you back a few times before that actually hits the street. But John, listen, man, I appreciate you being with us this morning. Look forward to being with you again. And I need to call into your show, and
anytime.
We need to chop it up. So expect to hear from me in the weeks to come, and talk about the things that are near and dear to both of our hearts.
Mr. Richard Shue, if we could get you into prime time at the night spot on Sirius XM Progress, we would love to have you anytime.
Well, I'll be the first to support that, and appreciate you being with us this morning. Listen, man, go get you some sleep. I know you got a long day today. Thank you for taking the time, John Fugelsang, of being with us, and I look forward to having you again and being on your show as well.
And look, it's all worth it. By the 21st of this month, we'll have $2 a gallon gas and a Ukraine peace deal. So we were promised, right? So that's going to be great.
That's right. All right, man. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.